never fade away in time, the TARDIS screamed. It wasn't the dignified, wheezing groan she usually made when landing at the wrong place in the right time, or the right place in the wrong time. This was a ragged, distorted howl, like a guitar solo forced through a broken speaker at maximum volume. The Doctor clung to the central console, scarf flailing in the temporal gale. Now that, he shouted over the din, is not in the manual. If I had a manual, which I don't, but if I did, this would not be in it. The time rotor flickered like a dying neon sign. Strange symbols, hard-edged, angular, more machine than mathematics, glitched across the roundels of the TARDIS walls. The Doctor squinted at them, curls, wild hat askew. Alien, but not alien. Human design, sensibilities. Garish, inelegant, and deeply convinced of its own importance. Something slammed into the TARDIS, temporal shields. The whole ship lurched. He tumbled, scarf wrapping round his legs. Somewhere, a small paper bag skittered across the floor and burst open, scattering jelly babies like multicolored meteorites. Right, he gasped, hauling himself upright. He jabbed a control with unnecessary vigor. Whoever's hijacking my ship clearly has no taste. Let's go and complain. The screams surged into a crescendo. The TARDIS fell. Night City greeted him with rain. It wasn't proper rain, he decided. It had the decency to fall, but not to be water. It hissed and steamed where it touched the TARDIS blue paint, leaving faint, oily streaks behind. He stepped out into a rooftop world of razor-edged neon and choking smog. Holographic adverts fought with each other across the sky. Megacorp logos, synthetic smiles, chrome bodies that were more product than person. The city rose in impossible layers, glass and steel and rust and concrete stacked in a mad, glittering tower toward the poisoned clouds. The Doctor wrinkled his nose. Ugly, he murmured. Impressive, but ugly. Something flickered at the edge of his vision. A man leaned against the TARDIS that had not been there a second ago. He was all sharp lines and attitude. Leather jacket, mirrored shades despite the gloom, cybernetic arm that gleamed silver even in the dirty light. A guitar hung across his back like a weapon that had forgotten it wasn't one. He regarded the TARDIS, then the Doctor, with the resigned amusement of someone who had seen many bad ideas and liked most of them. Well, the stranger drawled, "You're new." The Doctor's eyes widened. He took a step closer, peering in fascination. "And you," he said, "are dead." The man barked a laugh. "Been called worse. Johnny Silverhand, terrorist, rock god, bad influence, digital brain parasite. Take your pick." He pushed himself off the TARDIS, and for a moment his hand passed through the wood, as if it wasn't there. Johnny flickered, stabilized. Hologram, the Doctor mused. No, too stable. Projection. No, you've got weight. You disturb the air. Ah, interesting. I'm an engram, Johnny said. Digitized consciousness. Ghost in the machine. You're taking this pretty well, Scarf Boy. Oh, I like ghosts, the Doctor said cheerfully. Especially the argumentative ones. They tend to be more honest. I'm the Doctor, by the way. Doctor what? Just the Doctor. Call me what, and I'll have to charge extra. Johnny snorted. Right. So what's your deal, Doc? Some kind of netrunner? He waved his silver hand vaguely at the TARDIS, that your ride looks like a toy someone lost in a museum. The doctor's eyes twinkled. She's a Type 40 TARDIS, time and relative dimension in space. She's been called many things. Toy is not one of them. Not twice. Anyway, he stepped back to admire Night City's monstrous skyline. Earth. Late 21st century by the industrial overcompensation. And you, he pointed at Johnny, are making all sorts of interesting ripples in the time vortex. Johnny raised an eyebrow. I'm a piece of malware with an attitude problem, Doc. Vortexes are above my pay grade. On the contrary, the doctor said softly, you're why I'm here. A gust of wind drove the acidic rain into his face. He squinted and tilted his hat. Something snatched the TARDIS. A signal, primitive, but very aggressive, like somebody taped a temporal receiver onto a sledgehammer. Human, but piggybacking on a... Oh, he paused, looking at Johnny more closely. Oh, that's clever and extremely stupid. Johnny folded his arms. Story of my life. Explain. You're an engram anchored to a biokip, the doctor said, circling him thoughtfully. You live in someone else's neural pathways. Yes, a passenger in a stolen skull. But that chip is also broadcasting you, not just into their mind, but into time itself. Someone's trying to use your pattern as a key. Johnny's smirk faltered. Arasaka, he said, voice flattening. Has to be. Those cores put me in this chip. They'd love to turn me into a screwdriver. The doctor brightened. I'm very fond of screwdrivers. Not their kind, Johnny snapped. If Arasaka's messing with time, they're not doing it so the little people get a fair shot. They'll monetize causality, sell futures they haven't even stolen yet. He took a breath he didn't need, nostrils flaring. So, Doc, you gonna help me wreck their plans, or you're just here to sightsee? The doctor offered him a small, crumpled paper bag. Jelly, baby. Johnny stared at it. Is that candy? Jelly sweets. The doctor popped one in his own mouth. Highly restorative. Banned. Yes. Johnny Silverhand. I am going to help you wreck their plans. Partly because I'm very fond of the universe, and partly because anyone who thinks weaponizing ghosts is a good idea needs a stern talking to. Johnny hesitated. Then his ghostly fingers closed around a jelly baby. To his surprise, he felt the squish, the sugar, the artificial fruit temps as he bit down. His eyes widened. I'm feeling this temporal bleed-through, the doctor said mildly. My presence is making you a little less dead than usual. Don't get used to it. Where's this Arasaka of yours? Johnny chuckled darkly. Everywhere. But if they're using my chip as a key, odds are the locks in city center. Big tower, lots of black glass. Logo that screams, we own you. Lead on, Mr. Silverhand, the doctor said. Let's go annoy a megacorporation. It turned out that Night City did not know what to make of a tall man in a battered hat, an absurdly long scarf, marching through its streets as if he owned them. He attracted stares. He attracted laughter. He attracted offers of implants from street docs, who doubted any human neck could naturally support that much knitwear. He politely declined them all. Johnny walked at his side, flickering in and out as the person carrying his chip, V, though the doctor never quite caught their face, moved through crowds and alleyways. Sometimes Johnny rode in the doctor's peripheral vision. Sometimes he perched ghost-like on the hood of passing cars. Sometimes he leaned on air vents no one else could see. "You sticking with your whole no-guns thing?" Johnny asked, as they watched an Arasaka patrol drone were overhead. "Guns are loud, crude, deeply unimaginative," the doctor said. "I prefer brains. Cores prefer guns." "Yes," the doctor said quietly. "That's why they always lose in the long run." Johnny snorted. "You seen Night City lately, Doc? Doesn't look like losing." The doctor glanced at the colossal tower ahead, its windows blazing like a vertical strip of captured dawn. The Arasaka logo glowed high above, reflected in acid rain. "History is very long," he said. "Corporations are very small. Come along." They reached the perimeter fence. Razor wire glittered. Auto turrets tracked the rain. The doctor took a battered device from his pocket that looked suspiciously like a toy kaleidoscope glued to a fork. "You sure that's gonna cut it?" Johnny asked. The doctor grinned, all teeth and mischief. "Mr. Silverhand, this is a mark for sonic infrastructure negotiator. Of course it's going to cut it." He pointed it at the fence. The air hummed. The razor wire shivered and sagged aside like embarrassed ivy. "See," he said. Johnny stared. "You're wasted as whatever you are. You could make a killing in Night City." "I've tried making a killing," the doctor said lightly, stepping through the opening. "Didn't like it." Inside, Arasaka Tower was all polished stone and corporate efficiency, a cathedral to profit. Security cameras tracked them. Drones floated silently above the marble floors. The doctor stuffed his hands in his pockets and strolled toward the lifts as if he had an invitation. "Act like you own the place," he murmured. "Most tyrannies run on the assumption that you don't." A pair of guards in black armor stepped forward, hands on weapons. "Authorization," one demanded. "Certainly," the doctor beamed. "I authorize you to let me in." Johnny groaned. "Doc, they're gonna." The guard's eyes glazed for a moment. The security badges at their collars flickered. For 1 second, the ghost of Johnny Silverhand overlaid the doctor's features in their HUDs, classified, dangerous, highest alert. Then a different overlay slammed in front of it, an internal directive stamped in urgent red. "High-value consultant. Do not impede." The doctor raised an eyebrow. "Did you do that?" Johnny smirked. "Turns out they made my face a priority target. You'd be amazed what you can do if you flip the flags. Walk on in, Doc." The guards stepped aside, uncertain. The doctor tipped his hat to them. "Lovely building," he said. "Terrible ethics." The lift hummed upward, floor numbers ticking past in a smooth cascade. The doctor leaned against the mirrored wall, studying Johnny's reflection. "You know," he said, "for a dead man, you're very good at improvisation. I've had practice. Life, death, resurrection, getting turned into software. Arasaka keeps trying to write my ending. I keep scribbling over it. A familiar problem." The doctor murmured. The lift chimed. The doors slid open on a high-security floor that barely fit into conventional geometry. Corridors twisted at angles that hurt the eyes, lined with servers that pulsed like rows of metallic hearts. Holographic sigils hung in the air, reconfiguring themselves faster than a human could read. At the center of the room, a cylinder of crackling light rose from floor to ceiling. Its surface crawled with numbers, faces, fragments of scenes, moments in time, looped and sliced and remixed. The doctor's hearts tightened. "Ah," he whispered, "there you are." A woman turned from the central console. Her suit was immaculate, her hair perfectly arranged, her eyes old and tired despite the corporate gloss. "You're not cleared to be here," she said. Johnny swore softly. "Saburo Arasaka's pet-time butcher," he muttered. "That's Dr. Ishikawa, used to do deep braindance analytics. Guess she got promoted." The doctor took a step forward. "Hello," he said pleasantly. "I'm the doctor. This is your temporal interface." Dr. Ishikawa's gaze flicked to the TARDIS, which had materialized quietly in one corner like a blue reprimand. "That is a non-local object," she said in perfect, measured company speak. "Unregistered energy signature. You are an anomaly." The doctor smiled. "Oh, good. I do hate to be boring." He pointed at the cylinder. "And that is a very dangerous experiment. You're attempting to thread an engram, Mr. Silverhand here, through the barrier of your local reality and into the underlying structure of time. You've turned a dead man's mind into a crowbar." Dr. Ishikawa hesitated, just for a heartbeat. Then she straightened. "Arasaka's mandate is to secure the future," she said. "We are simply giving ourselves a better vantage point." Johnny's image flared into visibility beside the doctor, more solid here than he'd ever felt. "You're ripping open the world so you can peek at the cheat sheet," he snarled. "You think you can own what hasn't happened yet." She looked at him, expression unreadable. "You already changed history once, Mr. Silverhand," she said calmly, "when you bombed our tower. Now we are changing it back." The doctor's eyes darkened. "History is not a toy," he said softly. "You cannot sand off the bits you don't like and call it improvement." Dr. Ishikawa gestured, and security drones whirred to life, rising from disguised alcoves. "We don't need your approval," she said. "The process is already in motion. Your TARDIS is the final calibration. We needed something that actually moves through time to verify our models. Thank you for bringing it to us." The doctor tilted his head. "Well," he said, "that's rude." The cylinder flared. Ripples spread outward, shimmering through the air. For a moment, the room was filled with ghosts. Children in gas masks, soldiers in metal shells, men in Victorian coats, women in spacesuits. All flickered half-images from a dozen different ages the doctor had walked through. They overlapped with fragments of Johnny's memories, crowded gigs, burning towers, Alt Cunningham's face made of light. Johnny swore. "Doc, this feels bad." "Yes," the doctor said grimly. "They're splicing temporal vectors into prediction models. Every possible outcome, every choice anyone in the city might make, swept up and dragged along. They want to buy and sell history like stock." Dr. Ishikawa watched the projections, her face lit by a kaleidoscope of stolen moments. "With this system," she murmured, "we can map the next century, eliminate uncertainty, ensure stability. No more wars, no more rogue terrorists, no more chaos, just order." "At what price?" the doctor asked. She met his gaze. At any price. Johnny laughed. A raw, broken sound. There it is, he said. Corpo speak, for we don't care who we kill. The doctor took a deep breath. Johnny, he said quietly, they're using you as an anchor. Your engram is the hitch these projections are tied to. If we break it, I'm gone, Johnny finished. For good. Not necessarily, the doctor said. If we redirect you through the TARDIS, I can scatter echoes of you through the local time stream. Fragments, guitar chords, the smell of cheap whiskey, that awful jacket. Night City's history will be laced with you. Johnny blinked. So I'd become what? A rumor, a legend, a glitch in the system that never quite goes away. A persistent idea, the doctor said. A seed of rebellion in every timeline. Arasaka won't be able to stabilize their predictions. You'll keep jamming the signal, but your consciousness as it exists now, tied to that chip, talking to me, that would end. Dr. Ishikawa's fingers danced over her console. You can't override the system, she said. We control the interface. The doctor smiled faintly. You really shouldn't have plugged your toys into my ship, then. The TARDIS hummed, the sound rising from a background presence to a palpable thrum under their feet. Roundels in her interior glowed through the blue doors. The cylinder's light bent toward her, threads of probability tugged by a deeper gravity. Johnny stared at the doctor. Why are you giving me the choice? He demanded. Your big-time cosmic guardian, right. Just push the button. The doctor's gaze held his. Because you're a person, he said. Not code, not a weapon, not a tool. You're a very annoying, very loud, very stubborn human being. And your life, however strange it's become, is yours to decide. Not Arasaka's, not mine. The room shook. Ghosts swarmed thicker, an impossible crowd of maybes. Dr. Ishikawa shouted orders that vanished into the roar. Johnny looked at the tower of stolen futures, at the cold corporate woman trying to nail them into place. Pat the mad, scarf-wrapped alien offering him oblivion in exchange for one last punk song against the universe. You know, he said slowly, for a guy who dresses like a thrift store exploded, you're not bad, Doc. He turned to face the cylinder. All right, Johnny Silverhand said. Let's make sure I never fade away. He stepped forward. For an instant, his image broke apart. Smoke in a high wind. Static on an old screen. Then he surged, not into the cylinder, but through it, riding the arterial lines of data as if they were guitar strings. He hit the TARDIS field like a chord struck across millennia. The doctor slammed both palms down on the console inside, hearts hammering. The TARDIS roared. The temporal interfaces twisted, buckled, and snapped. Dr. Ishikawa screamed as her projections shattered. Futures unraveled, cascades of numbers dissolving into white noise. The cylinder imploded, collapsing into a single bright point that shot into the TARDIS heart and vanished. Silence. The drones crashed to the floor, inert. The lights flickered. Johnny Silverhand was gone. The doctor stepped out of the TARDIS, hat in hand. Smoke curled from ruined servers. Dr. Ishikawa struggled to her knees, staring at the dead cylinder. You destroyed it, she whispered. Do you know what you've done? Yes, the doctor said softly. I've made sure you don't get to own tomorrow." She looked up at him, eyes wet and furious. "People will die because of this, without our guidance." "People will die with it," the doctor said. "But now they'll die for their own mistakes, not yours. That matters." He turned away. "Call this a warning, Dr. Ishikawa. Time is not your plaything. If I ever hear that Arasaka is poking at the fabric of reality again," his smile turned thin and cold, "I'll bring a much shorter scarf." He stepped back into the TARDIS and closed the door. The city hadn't changed. Night City still glowed and snarled and choked. The rain was still toxic. The ads still screamed. The megacorps still ruled. But somewhere in 1,000 little cracks between moments, something else moved. A guard hesitated before firing on a protester and couldn't explain why. A kid in a garage picked up a battered guitar and decided that the song she was writing had to be about burning towers. A technician at a data center looked at a set of orders and thought, for the first time, this is wrong. In the TARDIS, drifting high above the city, the doctor leaned on the console and listened. Very faintly, echoing up through the time stream from a dozen directions at once, he heard a ghost of music, a distorted riff that refused to resolve, always just on the edge of becoming a full song. He smiled sadly. "Hello, Johnny," he murmured. "Enjoying yourself?" A flicker of static danced across one of the TARDIS roundels, coalescing for a heartbeat into the outline of a man with a guitar slung over his shoulder and a smirk made of pure trouble. "Don't get sentimental on me, Doc," the phantom drawl said, half in his ears, half in his mind. "You still got cause to piss off." The doctor laughed, bright and sudden. "Yes," he said. "Yes, I suppose I do." He twirled a switch, spun a dial, and patted the console. "Come along, my dear. The universe is full of tyrants who need a good song and a bad example." The TARDIS dematerialized with her familiar wheezing groan, leaving Night City to its smog and its neon and the stubborn, impossible idea of Johnny Silverhand threaded through its future. And somewhere between 1 second and the next, in a place only Time Lords and very determined rock stars could reach,